You know how you feel anxious before a race? Oh, I've been there, man. You just feel it in your body. What do you do about that? Well, Abebe Bikila knows that feeling too. See, in the 1960 Olympics, Abebe lines up to his very first international competition with no shoes and no experience. So you can kind of see where there would be some anxiety here. But what he does and what that means for you can be really powerful. See, Habib was born the same day as the Los Angeles Marathon in a suburb of the capital city of Ethiopia. But when he was a toddler, Mussolini invaded Ethiopia, and Habib and his family moved to a small town in the mountainous region outside of the capital. He grew up a shepherd. He grew up playing Ghana, which is an Ethiopian field hockey, but you play against neighboring towns, and sometimes the goalposts are like kilometers apart. It's crazy. When he's 19, he moved back to the capital where his mom now was living, but he wasn't able to find a job for a whole year. So after a year, he joins the army. Specifically, he joins the 5th Infantry Regiment of the Imperial Guard. These guys are the guys that are in charge of keeping the emperor safe right here. Now, he lives kind of in the suburbs of the city, so he has to run 12 miles to work there and back each day. Well, the athletic director for the army notices that he's just running like 24 miles a day, 12 miles each way, and recruits him to start training seriously for distance running. And one of the main things his coach focused on was getting his running form light, smooth, and efficient. His coach said at first he ran really stiffly, like a soldier doing drills. But with concentration and practice, his form became super efficient and smooth. So that's how Abebe finds himself at the start of the 1960 marathon in Rome. Now, we talked about being anxious before a race, and there's plenty to be anxious about. The heat in Rome is absolutely oppressive during this race, so they start the race at 5:30 p.m., which means it's going to finish in the dark. Then there were the shoes. Abebe trained largely barefoot, but occasionally in shoes. And when we got to Rome, he purchased got some new shoes. But after a light run, they just straight up gave him blisters. So he's like, screw it, tossed them out and decided just to run barefoot. So here he is, inexperienced, poor conditions, no shoes, and there are plenty of reasons to be anxious here. But he and his coach made a plan, and he knew where to put his attention. The plan was to run the first 12 miles with the pack as efficiently as possible and then just to go for it. So that's what he did. If you want to diminish your anxiety, follow this methodology. The reason we feel anxious before we start races is because we're focusing on things that are outside of our control, like other competitors. What if this happens? What if that happens? The heat, the weather. All of these things increase our anxiety and decrease our ability to perform effectively. But you can choose to focus your attention on different places. And you'll also notice your anxiety, just side note, your anxiety is going to increase anytime you take your attention away from the present moment. If you start thinking about winning in the future or how you're going to perform during the race and that's in the future, or thinking about past mistakes, these things are outside of your control. So your anxiety is going to ramp up and your performance is going to be poor. The easiest thing to do is to move your attention away from things you can't control in the future or in the past and focus them on the current moment, things you can take action on. In fact, you can only control the current moment. That's the only place you can take action. Do like Abebe. Have a plan, focus on that. For him, he had a place for his mind to go. He focused on having smooth, light, efficient stride and doing his job. He could do that. He didn't have control over the weather or what anybody else could do. But when he focused on that, anxiety decreases and performance increases here. After 12 miles, he went for it, and most of the field just couldn't hang with the blistering pace he set, except for one Moroccan runner who hung with him near the end. By this point, it was dark in Rome, and soldiers had to push back the crowd and hold up torches to light the course so that they could see where they were going. When Abebe passes through a Piazza di Porta Capena, I'm not Italian, I don't know how to really say it, he passes this big tall obelisk. And now this was like symbolic to Abebe, because this obelisk had been in Ethiopia, but it was stolen by Mussolini and Italian troops and brought to Rome. So when Abebe passes this obelisk, he just puts the hammer down, crushing his opposition, dodging a motor scooter who had mistakenly driven onto the course, and sets a new world record, becoming the first black African to win an Olympic medal. His win was so completely unexpected that most of the press corps didn't even know who he was and didn't know who to write about in their story. When he finished the race officials tried to go over and assist him, but he brushes them aside, proceeds to do calisthenics to stay loose, and tell them that he could run another 9 miles easily. That's the thing. When you focus your attention on the present moment, on what you have control over, your ability to perform increases dramatically. He then returns to Ethiopia, where he survives a military coup, gets arrested on false charges, does his job guarding the emperor and the border, and keeps training for the next Olympic marathon. But then 40 days before the 1964 Olympics, Abebe began to feel some pain in his stomach while training. It got so bad that he went to the hospital, where they told him he had acute appendicitis and rushed him to surgery. He left the hospital a week later with strict orders not to run for weeks. Well, weeks later is the Olympics, so he doesn't run, but he lines up at the starting line of the Olympics. Anxious? Man, you bet. No one expects him to win because of the appendicitis, the surgery, the lack of training. But at the halfway mark, there he is, 5 seconds in the lead. And one of the observers watching him, he says, and talking about this race, says he runs with total concentration and precision. You want to eliminate anxiety, concentrate your mind on something else. You can choose to do that. The ultimate image of a perfect marathoner, he says. His body seemed to float down the streets. He focused his mind on the efficiency. His coach had taught him how to run using the least amount of energy, and Bikila's smooth strides and motionless head made the race appear effortless, end quote. So he took his concentration again and just put it into his smooth rhythm. This is a powerful approach. When your mind tries to take you somewhere else, focus on the present moment. Focus on the task at hand. It's one of the easiest ways you can get rid of this. And the more you focus, say, on your motions, your mechanics, or something that you can do, the more you'll find yourself present and actually moving forward rapidly. You don't have to worry about the outcome. Let that outcome take care of itself. By doing this, neither the humidity, nor his surgery, nor his competitors could even touch Abebe. He ended up crushing the competition by 4 minutes, setting another world record and becoming the first person to win back-to-back Olympic marathons. So the next step is the next Olympic marathon, right? Back-to-back-to-back. There he was, 1968 Olympics, with bib number 1 as the top seed. But a week before the race, his leg started hurting. When they x-rayed it, they found a spot on his fibula that was fractured. He tried to race anyway, but 10 miles into the race had to drop out because, well, he had a broken leg that he was trying to run on. It's just how it goes sometimes. Just 5 months later, Abebe was driving his Volkswagen Beetle when he swerved to miss an oncoming car, rolled his bug, and broke his back. When he came to in the hospital, he wasn't able to move from his neck down. In time, with treatment, he was able to regain movement of his arms. So life's over, right? He was a runner. Now he can't run. Dude, imagine the worry, the fear, the anxiety that would come with that. So what does Abebe do? Well, he starts competing in the Paralympics, the equivalent of the time. Competing in wheelchair archery, table tennis, and dog sled racing. And winning. He made the decision to act on what he could control and live life to the fullest. So here's the thing. You will feel anxious before your next race. It's real. It's a sign that your mind is focused on something outside of your control. So take that as a reminder to pull your attention back into an area you can control. Ground yourself in the present moment. Ground yourself in your mechanics, in your form, in some sort of task you have a plan for, and can control what you can control. And you'll find your anxiety will diminish. Maybe it won't go away completely, but you'll be able to cope with it. And your performance will increase dramatically. I promise. All right, see you next time.